Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with the official II patch notes. Yes, indeed. Creative Assembly have put out the official patch notes for the Curse of the Vampire Coast patch, and boy, is it a huge amount of patch notes. Let's get straight to it. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Vampire Coast, obviously, they're all new. You guys should seen plenty of them. Lokir Felhart, who I have not got the chance to take a look at, is going to be right yet. Yeah, he's pretty good from what I hear, but he's going to be coming in for the Dark Elves. Field many Dread Black Arcs. He's kind of like the Pirate Lord for the Dark Elves. Of course, the Vampire Counts have the new Bloodlines mechanics. You guys have probably seen this before as well in various people's streams and so on. Lamians, Von Karsteins, Blood Dragons, Neckarchs, and the Strigoi. And yeah, they provide you some bonuses in campaign, as well as being incredibly powerful lords in themselves. Heinrich Kemmler now has his own starting location, and he has a mount for the first time, a Bard and Nightmare. His army's also immune to attrition, taken in the usual way for Vampire Counts, moving it through untainted territory, so he can definitely be the Wanderer that he was always meant to be. Run around the world without taking that attrition, which is very nice. That's what I like to see. Lokir Felhart, let's see here. Kraken Lord does not need to perform rites in order to raise Black Arcs, so you can basically get as many as you want. Recruit one for each major port settlement he captures. Okay. Ultimately amassing a fleet with which to terrorize the Lustrian coastline and beyond. In addition, his armies enjoy a 50% upkeep reduction for any Black Arc Corsairs they recruit. Okay, so he'll have upkeep reduction for Corsairs. Makes sense. Not technically part of the II patch, must be downloaded from the Steam page. Okay. It's highly likely that any existing multiplayer campaign saves will no longer work. Okay, good to know. Kemmler gets his new updated start position. Let's see here. Made Blackstone Post capital of Northern Grey Mountains. That's where he starts. And added base level of Vampire Corruption in Northern Grey Mountains, Bastogne, and the Forest of Ardennes. There in Bretonnia. So, having played a few turns of a Heinrich Kemmler campaign, it's pretty fun. You fight the Bretonnians early on, and because you have Krell and some other powerful terror units, if you can wipe out most of the Bretonnians before they get access to too many high-tier knights, then you can actually beat them down pretty easily. Very, very fun campaign, and it's nice to have a little bit of a change of pace from the typical Sylvanian Vampire Counts. Let's see here. In other campaign map changes, Heart of the Jungle and the Bowmen of Orion have been added to Mortal Empires. Hopefully that means we'll see an additional Legendary Lord or start position added at some point there for the Wood Elves. Same thing with the Suddenburg AI faction has been added to Mortal Empires. Hopefully we'll see maybe one of the Empire Legendary Lords get tossed down there in the future. Chippyotl is Lokir Felhart's location, and Galleon's Graveyard, which can be captured by other factions. I don't know exactly how the occupation works for that. My guess is it's probably going to be unfavorable to occupy for most factions, but yeah, Galleon's Graveyard is there now as well. The factions have been reordered both in the campaign and the custom battle screen, so you should be able to more easily find the factions that you're looking for. There's a ton of faction changes. In fact, a lot of these patch notes here are faction changes for the lords in campaign. So I'm going to touch on these super briefly. Of course, this channel is more dedicated towards multiplayer. I do play campaign a little bit here and there, but essentially what this is a lot of the older lords have had their army effects moved to faction wide and just generally have been buffed up in terms of their campaign effects. So like you can see here, Tyrion plus 30 diplomacy with high elf factions, which is new. 100% build time on the Shrine of Cain building, which is new, plus 3 recruit rank for Lothram Seaguard, which is new. So he just gets new stuff. Marathi gets 50% upkeep reduction for heroes and hero action cost. It used to be just the action cost. And yeah, 25% construction costs for sorcery buildings, move from lord to faction effects. This is what I was talking about. A lot of these you're going to see lord to faction effects, so I'm not going to go through all of these. You guys can kind of scan through them on your own time. Just understand that a lot of lords are becoming much, much better in campaign in terms of their bonuses and their stats that they give. So yeah. And yeah, we're just going to keep scanning through this. Again, you can see there's a ton of changes. Almost every legendary lord in the game got some kind of changes to their faction effects. So new campaigns started in this new patch. Definitely going to be a lot of fun with all the new stuff going on. Let's move on. Vampire counts changes. White King. Oh yeah, I did notice this when playing the campaign for Heinrich Kemmler. The buildings have been moved around quite a bit for the vampire counts, like where you train stuff is different now, so just be aware of that. You'll be having to get used to new kind of build orders and everything in campaign. Vampire counts mounts had some changes as well. You don't have to unlock all the variants of the corpse cart to now unlock the final variant, and yeah, of course Kemmler has a Bard of Nightmare. They got some new text and everything. General campaign changes and fixes, there's a lot here. Again, you can see this huge list of changes, so I'm not going to be going through this whole list of changes. I would definitely recommend you guys go through and have a look yourself if you're curious. There's also a ton of bug fixes and general changes. Yeah, just way too many for me to go through here, but a few highlights that I wanted to hit. There's the new Spectator mode, which you guys may have seen if you watched Turin's tournament. Barrow Legion is now in custom battles. Reinforcements should now enter the battlefield from the correct direction. Let's see here. Encouraged been added to the Goblin Great Shaman on the Wolf and the Goblin Night Shaman. Night Goblin Shaman, rather. Let's see here. Siege Attacker attributes. Chanted Decapods thrice into the mirror while turning around, and oh my mighty Sigmar, it looks like, look at the mess we're in. Let's see here. Ulthuan battle maps will no longer incorrectly be used when fighting in the Badlands. That's probably good. This one's interesting. They've adjusted the minimum camera height and the maximum camera height, so it's better for ground level cinematics, and you also get a higher max height, allowing for a better, wider battlefield overview. I'm a big fan of this change. I do wish that Creative Assembly would maybe increase the max camera distance a little bit more even, but increasing the max camera distance is always nice. That means we don't necessarily have to use the debug cam quite so much. I actually never use the debug cam, for those of you who are curious, but there it is. Let's see here. Lords on flying mounts should now respond correctly to movement orders after being interrupted or knocked back. That's good. That was a big issue. Let's see here. Yeah, not really a whole lot. Mostly unit-specific things. Let's see here. Nothing else majorly that I wanted to hit on here. Yeah. Alright. Audio changes. There's been plenty of fixes as well there, so that's always good. Now here's where the meat is. This is I'm sure the part you guys are more interested in on this particular channel is the balancing changes. So let's get to it. First up on the list is the Beastman. Malagor gets a whole lot more mass. Somebody's been eating his man burgers, but he gets a little bit more run speed, slightly more cost, but significantly better melee stats as well. 10 melee attack and 10 melee defense is huge, as well as plus 10 AP damage and plus 15 base damage. So Malagor just getting a major upgrade across the board in terms of his stats. Gorbel also getting more mass and a greater chance to ignore hits, like ignore the staggers and interrupts. No longer has terrain penalties in shallow water. That's probably good. He counts as large, so he shouldn't. Kazrak on the chariot gets a little bit more armor. That's great. You guys have also seen maybe the Dark Mail got some changes as well. We'll probably talk about that more in a little bit here. Morgor also got more mass, so just in general, the Beastman characters getting a bit thicker. Feral Manticore, you'll see here and in many other places, got reduced cost. I still think it needs a lot more help to be useful, but hey, it's a step in the right direction. Gore Herds with dual weapons got less cost. Minotaurs, all variants got less cost as well, which I think is a great change. Minotaurs were way too expensive before, so that's a great change. Razor Gore Herds also got less cost, and Giants, again, this is something that applies to Giants pretty much across the board. They just got more weapon damage, more AP damage, and more splash attack targets, so they're going to hit a lot harder in melee. Dwarves, a lot of the Dwarf Lords, pretty much everyone except the Rune Lord, got less cost, which is good, because the Rune Lord's like one of the only picks that you ever see taken with the dwarves. So I love the fact that the other lords are getting a bit cheaper. Maybe you'll see them a bit more often. It's doubtful, but the Grombrindle especially was super expensive, so that's nice to see. The Thane getting more melee defense is okay, until they take away his Horn of Uselessness and give him an item like he used to have with the Tormentor Sword. He's going to be kind of a worthless character, but there it is. Bugman's Rangers get a little bit less health, which is unfortunate, but Hammers get more health, which is definitely a good thing. Hammers kind of tended to underperform. A lot of Great Weapon Infantry tends to underperform, but Hammers in particular. Gyro Bombers and Skyhammer got more health and more ammo. That's going to help a little bit. I'm not sure if it'll help a ton, but that plus 20 ammo is pretty significant, especially for the Gyro. Oh, sorry, that's just the Gyro Bomber and the Skyhammer, but still should help them hopefully get some work done. I know those units are kind of useless right now, so. Correlers with Great Weapons also get 2 melee defense, that's okay. Skarsnik gets 300 mass, not exactly what I was hoping for him. I was definitely hoping to see either Vanguard or Stalk, if not both, added to Skarsnik, but I guess we'll just have to wait. For the Greenskin update, Grimgor gets a bigger buff, but still probably not enough to make him useful. Plus 5 armor, plus 7 melee defense, more mass. I'll have to mess around with Grimgor to see how much better he is, but I don't think that that's really going to make that big of a difference, but definitely a step in the right direction. Again, we already saw the Encourage get added to the Goblin characters, which I'm not sure why they lacked it, but there you go. 25 cost and minus 25 cost on Archers and Fanatic Archers for the Night Goblins. Squig Herds get a little bit more health, which is good. Orc Boar Chariots get more melee attack because the Chariot needed more melee attack, apparently. Savage Orc Boar Boy Biggins, an absolute mouthful of a unit, now truly bigger in Ardor with plus 5 bonus versus large. And then they lose 2 charge bonus as a result, but finally, these guys have had that bigger and Arda in their tooltip for a long time and haven't ever had a bonus versus large until now, so that's a great change to see. Again, the Giant getting more damage, as is per usual. The Empire has had quite a few changes. Demigryph Knights across the board, getting more health, plus 8 health per entity, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a pretty significant amount. The Halberd variants also lose a little bit of charge bonus. Royal Autocrophites go up slightly in cost, which is probably warranted. And then the Lance variants get a little bit more melee defense, just to set them apart a little bit more. I still think you're mostly only going to see ever the Halberd versions, but anyway. Hellblaster Volleygun and the Rocket Battery both got a bit cheaper, as did the Captain and Crossbowman. Pistoliers, one of my favorite units in the game. Always like to see them get buffs, and they got a pretty good one here. Plus 8 charge bonus and plus 2 melee attacks. A nice little buff for their melee stats. They're going to be a significantly better hybrid type unit. Witch Hunter gets less ammo, that's fine. Great Swords and Halberdiers get a bit more leadership, which is also good. Spearmen with no shields get a plus 2 bonus versus large, which is interesting. I wonder if they're trying to make up for the fact that the Spearmen without shields actually have a much slower attack animation from Spearmen with shields. Curious, rather curious. The Steam Tank gets a bit better melee stats as well, or better weapon strength rather. Its melee attack and defense is actually unchanged, unfortunately, but the extra weapon damage certainly can help. Knights of the Blazing Sun gain 1 AP damage while losing 1 base damage. A nice little change there, just giving it a bit better AP values. And the Great Cannon has had its accuracy improved. Moving on then to the spooky edgy elves. We've got Malekith with more mass on foot, because apparently he's been eating his burgers as well. It just seems like they're kind of buffing a lot of the infantry characters' mass, which is always nice. Sorceress on the Cold One mount got minus 50 cost, trying to encourage people to bring the Cold One more often. The Hydra got a bit cheaper, as did the Chill of Sauntar, which is awesome, and the Frost Breath is no longer flaming. You don't say. Charybdis got a bit of extra bonus versus large. Again, the Feral Manticore got cheaper. The Supreme Sorceress, the rest of her mounts all got cost increase rather than the Cold One, so that's interesting. Doomfire Warlocks got a bit less health and more cost. That's a great change. They were very powerful. Sisters of Slaughter got a minuscule melee attack and defense buff, minus 1 of each. Oh no. Cold One Knights, similar to how some of the Lizardmen Cav are getting changed, they're losing out some of their charge bonus, but getting significantly better melee stats as a result. The Lizard Cavalry are more supposed to be meant as a sustained combat rather than a shock cavalry. Shades also get a little bit more health, which is nice. Shades were very squishy before, so this will make them a little bit tankier. High Elves, the Fireborn and the Dragon Princes both get minus 50 cost. They do get minus 5 physical resistance as a result, but the cost reduction especially is huge for a faction that just struggles with putting enough units on the board, and everything's super expensive. It's always nice to get a cost reduction anywhere you can. Silver Helms get an increased charge bonus, which is nice. Silver Helms always just felt a little bit limp compared to other Shock Cavalry in that price range, kind of that mid-tier Shock Cavalry, so I'll have to try them out and see if they're any better now with that increased charge bonus. Handmaiden gets a bit cheaper, increased projectile speed and penetration, so hopefully she'll be able to hit like more than one model at a time. Like if she's shooting into a unit of infantry, she can maybe hit 2 or 3 models at a time. That would definitely make her more useful. Sisters of Avalorn get more AP missile damage, but lose a bit of base missile damage. Same for the Everqueen's Court Guards, of course. The Grey get minus cost. Storm Riders get minus cost. Tyrion gets increased cost, less melee attack, but significantly more AP damage. And I'm sure you guys have seen replays featuring Tyrion where he just beats the brakes out of people. I know Turin smashed my face in here with Tyrion when I was playing the Vampire Coast. Just absolutely destroyed Count Noctilus. So Tyrion definitely a powerful combatant now with that extra AP damage. Alariel gets minus 8 melee attack on the Eagle. Would have liked to have seen a little bit more in terms of melee stat nerfs for her, but that's okay. Lithanar is slightly more accurate and again has more penetration, similar to the Handmaiden. Penetration is always a good thing. Terranok Chariot and Ithilmar Chariot have both had martial prowess added on, which I thought was a bit odd that they didn't have it. They also have less melee defense as a result, which is just fine. For Bretonnia, the Trebuchets got cheaper, Alberic got cheaper. Fey Enchantress, the direct damage aura deals less damage. The Lord on foot, Warhorse, and Pegasus had a reduced cost. Foot Squires went slightly up in cost. The Green Knight got a pretty good little melee attack and defense buff. Battle Pilgrims get +1 melee defense, as do the Holy Wardens. I really think the Battle Pilgrims need a lot more melee defense than that, just to make them kind of like a cheaper Sister of Slaughter, basically. It's the way I see them being useful, but we'll have to wait and see. Lizardmen, the Cold-Blooded change, of course. Cold-Blooded now stops Rampage. It gives +16 leadership. No longer has max uses. That's interesting. So they've just removed the max number of charges on it completely, and they've removed the stat penalties and healing. Cold One Riders get, again, less charge bonus, more sustained stats. Same with the Spear Riders, Horned Ones, Feral Cold Ones, you know, all of them, same thing. Less charge bonus, more melee attack, melee defense, AP damage, base weapon damage, all across the board. Kroxigors just get straight up more damage. Skink Skirmishers, more base missile damage. Saurus Scarvet on a Cold One is a bit cheaper. Ancient Stegodon, and Feral Stegodon all got slightly cheaper with another +3 bonus versus infantry. Carnosaurs got more melee attack. Skink Chief, both on the Stegodon and Ancient Stegodon, is cheaper. Same with the Priest. The Rev Crystal has had its cost slightly reduced since the Lizardman can't heal through Cold-Blooded now. Mazdamundi now uses the Ancient Stegodon's weapon strength, and on the Palanquin, he has more health. Slann in general have more health and more melee defense. Saurus Spears got more melee defense, and Saurus Warriors got more melee attack. Temple Guard got more health. All good changes. We'll see kind of how these changes all stack up together, but the Cold One change, I know a lot of people have been complaining very loudly and consistently over the past few weeks about it, to the point where it's almost gotten quite annoying. But I really don't think that it's going to be that much of a nerf to Lizardmen. I mean, just look at, like, Loremaster of Sotek, for example, playing over the past few weeks, not only in the Everchosen Invitational, but also in this early access time period. In all the games he's played as a Lizardman, I really don't think that he's ever struggled with controlling that new Cold-Blooded mechanic, the Primal Fury. And with the new Cold-Blooded, in fact, you can actually control it a lot better, I think, than you used to be able to. So, despite everyone's constant, I say everyone, it's only just a few very loud, very vocal people that are constantly complaining about this in various Discord servers, comment sections, and pretty much anywhere that they can find someone that will listen to them. They just continuously complain about this Rampage change, and I mean, I get it to a degree, but at the same time, if you look at the actual evidence, Loremaster of Sotek's been able to beat top-level players with the Lizardmen consistently, so I really don't think that it's going to be that much of an issue for them, and if anything, it'll actually be a benefit, I think, But we'll have to wait and see. Vampire counts, not a whole lot of multiplayer changes here. They got, obviously, all the new lords. Strigoi Ghoul King got a bit cheaper to compensate. Helman Gorst got more health on the corpse cart, which is great. Vampire Lord on the Nightmare got more armor. Devils of Schwarzhofen and Vargeist in general just got a slight melee attack buff. Terrorgeist has less charge bonus. Cairn Wraiths and Crypt Horrors also got a slight melee stat buff. Attack for the Cairn Wraiths, defense for the Crypt Horrors, and more Ascension. Again, the direct damage aura is doing 20% less damage, so all of the AoE drain, constant drain effects are getting nerfed slightly, which is very nice to see. Warriors of Chaos, Kolek basically got a bigger hitbox, less armor and more cost. Archaon got more cost, but way more AP damage, and those of you who saw, if you didn't go back and watch it, I did an overview of Vampire Coast's stream, and I had a Q&A after. Some people were asking about Archaon, so I had him duel some various lords, and Archaon is now one of the most powerful duelists in the game. He is just absolutely terrifying. Sigvald gets more missile block chance, more armor and leadership. Feral Manticore gets cheaper, Chaos Giant gets the typical Giant treatment, Swords of Chaos get a little bit more AP damage, as do Chaos Knights. Wood Elves, moving on, we've got Wildwood Rangers, War Dancers, both getting a reduced cost. Sorry, that's regular Wildwood Rangers. The War Dancers Regiment of Renown gets reduced cost. The Wardens of Kithral, the Regiment of Renown for the Rangers, gets increased cost. Way Watchers Regiment of Renown, less cost, less ammo. Regular Way Watchers just get the -1 ammo. Way Stalkers get significantly better melee stats and AP melee damage. So the Way Stalker hero looking to be a little bit better in melee, sort of a better hybrid type character. So we'll have to see it. You don't see those guys too often, but maybe they'll start coming back around. Treatment, this is probably my favorite change of the Wood Elves here, and one of my favorite changes overall. Treatment have AP now. They lose out a lot of their base melee damage. They have less total weapon strength, but they have primarily AP values now, which makes a lot more sense. I made the point in my stream, if a tree falls on your house and it destroys your house, that counts as armor piercing. If a tree falls on a dude in plate armor, it's still probably going to kill him. So I'm glad to see that the trees finally got their AP values that they've always deserved, and it's going to make those tree builds probably a lot more viable. I'm curious to see, you guys know I'm a big fan of the tree build, so I'm curious to see how well they do now, now that the tree men have been buffed. Sisters of Thorn got slightly more expensive, less physical resistance, which is fine. Norska, here we go. So Norska, the Mammoths, just got a whole bunch of buffs. It looks like they actually got less melee attack, maybe slightly less melee defense, but they got more bonus versus infantry, more melee damage, more collision attack targets, and they also got 2 collision attack max targets cooldown. I'm not really sure what that means, but the point of all of these mammoth changes is that the mammoths are a lot better. They hit a lot harder. They have more missile resistance, it looks like, potentially, or maybe that's just Wolfric, but yeah, they hit a lot harder in melee, and I think that's going to help Norska a lot in some different matchups. Feral Manticore once again gets less cost. Fabir with Great Weapon get more cost, probably warranted. Skin Wolves get a little bit less cost. I would have liked to see Skin Wolves get some other buffs just because they're really not great right now. I feel like they need better melee defense, but we'll see. Berserkers and Brutes of the Hound lost out on some melee defense, while Champions with Great Weapons got a bit more. That's a really good change. Giant, of course, got the Giant changes. Frostworm, Frost Breath no longer flaming damage. It's probably a good thing. And the Marauders with Axes, increased projectile mass for more knockbacks. So I'll have to try this out. You know, I'm curious to see, like, if you're playing against the Dwarves, for example, if you're throwing axes at them, if you're, like, staggering the unit models constantly, that could potentially be very useful. Skaven, minus cost for clan rats across the board, which is definitely good. Globadiers and Bombardiers also got less cost and more ammo. Warp Fire Throwers got less cost, so some nice cost reductions across the board for the Skaven. Hell Pit Abomination gets a nice buff. Summon Skaven Slave Spears now have Scurry Away and Strength in numbers, that's good. And a bit more melee damage. The Bonebreaker Warlord got more health, 400 more health. Queek gets a plus 19 bonus versus infantry. Holy guacamole, that is a huge bonus versus infantry for Queek to get extra. That means he's going to absolutely tear apart most infantry characters, so I'm genuinely curious to see where Queek starts to fit into the meta. Nice little change for him. Maybe you'll see him more often against some various factions. Storm Vermin with Halberds also got more melee attack. That's great. So pretty much just buffs across the board for the Skaven, and nothing hugely significant. I mean, the 19 bonus versus infantry for Queek is awesome. And this Hellpit Abomination is quite a good change as well. That's a pretty significant amount of weapon damage. So, yeah, nice changes for the Skaven. Tomb Kings didn't get a whole lot, but the Skirting Skull Catapult got a bit cheaper. Casket of Souls is more accurate. Same with Kotep. Cetra on the Chariot has more melee defense. The Necrosphinx has more health. The Sphinx of Usek has less health. Sepulchral Stalkers and Eyes of the Desert both get +1 melee attack, and their projectiles deal +1 damage. That's always nice. That's it for the actual factions. Now for abilities balancing, this is a big old list right here. So, Dreaded 13th, Summon Storm Vermin now has the proper abilities. Soul Rain, Soul Storm, Soul Torrent, explosion damage has been increased. Scar Snake's Prada, Venom Staff also does more damage. Comet of Cassandora does more damage. Flamestorm now drags entities towards the center rather than pushing them away. Curious to see how that's going to change Flamestorm. Van Braces of the Sun now applies -22% flame weakness. Shield of the Old Ones replaced the 44% magic resistance with 22% ward save. So less magic resistance, but it's now useful in more different situations, not just when you're being attacked by magic. Pearl of Infinite Darkness, Dark Mail. Here's the change to the Dark Mail. Change passive self buff. Melee that adds 24 armor and 22% magic resistance. Lance Formation got a little bit of a debuff. Hunter of Champions got a little bit of a debuff as well. Or maybe a little bit of a buff. Regrowth removed the physical resistance and replaced with 100% vigor. It's been had its cost tweaked as well. Shield of Thorns, the missile resistance has been replaced with physical resistance. That's always nice. Makes the spell a lot more useful. Ballistics Calibration, the duration has been reduced. A bit unfortunate there. Curse the Bad Moon, Contact Effect now reduces melee defense rather than melee attack. Great change. Love that. Gorkle Fix-It changed to -24% movement speed to -48% movement speed, and it no longer affects vigor, so that's a great change for Gorkle Fix-It as well. Melee attack buff has been reduced. Scarecrow Banner, okay. Light of Battle, now, this is interesting. They made this change once previously, and then they switched it back in a later patch during Total War Warhammer 1, but a Light of Battle now has an area of effect, so it's now an area of effect unbreakable, which may make the spell more useful, especially in matchups where you might face a lot of terror and so on. You can pop that up, that Light of Battle for a nice area of effect unbreakable to keep your troops fighting. Good change there. Glittering Robe. Interesting, so they removed the morale increase, and they made it +60 armor, but they just reduced the duration. Interesting. Rune of Hearth and Home increased the range. Destroyer now is only +15 ability recharge rather than the +45, which is great because that was a little bit ridiculous. You could just fly in and out of the range and continuously keep re-adding that 45 seconds. Cursed Blade fixed the reapplication of the direct damage. That's Hellebron's Cursed Blade was broken, then it got broken in the other direction. Now hopefully it's fixed. Heart of Avalor now activates when Tyrion goes below 20%, which is good. Sometimes he would get routed off or one-shotted before the Heart of Avalor could activate. Crowd of Domination has its effect radius increased. That's another good buff for Archaon. Transformation of Kadon. Manticore unbinds 40% slower, and they reduce the casting costs. I mean, it still is just a Manticore, but hey, that's kind of nice. Tomb Swarm reduced direct damage by 25%. Death Frenzy increased duration, which is awesome. Skitter Leap now has a radius. Skitter Leap upgraded. Yep. Night Shroud also has a radius, so both Skitter Leap and Night Shroud getting area of effect. So you can stock a whole bunch of units at once. That's going to lead to some fun potential shenanigans. Headbutt has had less power cost. Dade's Sword. This is for Durthu. You have 2 max uses now, but you can cast it. It's not just around Durthu. You can actually cast it away from yourself. Sneaky Stabbin', reduce the wind-up time to 1. That's really interesting. So you can just pop that right off. Gaze of Malice now has only max 3 uses, and it's also more expensive. Incantation of Cursed Blades got less power. It costs less magic to use, which is nice. Same with the Skull Storm. Gaze of Nagash, increased accuracy. Shem's Burning Gaze, same thing. Vindictive Glare, Gaze of Mork. A lot of the magic missiles, the multi-missile, like Shem's Burning Gaze, seem to be more accurate and higher ballistic trajectory, and many of them got reduced power costs as well. So, whew. Did we get through everything? That was, they say patch notes, but this is really more like a patch book, guys, at this point. The game is getting so huge and complex that, ooh, man, this is quite the patch notes. Of course, I'll have it as linked to the notes themselves down in the description below. Most of the changes seem pretty good. A few things that I would have liked to see get a few more changes, but nonetheless, definitely some positives here, some positive takeaways to be had. So, yeah, just a couple more days till the patch is released to the public, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all on ladder, on quick battles once the patch comes out live. Hopefully you found this interesting and informative. Thank you very much for watching and sticking through me with this massive list of patch notes. A lot of changes to go through, but yeah, very good changes overall. So thanks again for watching. Like and subscribe. Be sure to do all that standard YouTube stuff, and we'll see you next time.